Welcome to the Neuropreneur Rising podcast. I'm your host, Polly Pollock, and I'm a marketing mentor, author, and neurospicy business owner, here to guide you in the journey of growing your business, getting seen, and getting clients on your terms. This is the place to be if you're an ADHD or neurodiverse entrepreneur and you're done with forcing yourself into marketing and business strategies that feel restrictive and awkward, and you're ready to embrace how your unique mind works so you can create the success that you deserve. On this podcast, we're going to be talking about ADHD and neuro-friendly marketing, dopamine-driven and sustainable business strategies, and how to get seen and paid your way without the burnout. And a little something to get you started before we dive in. If you're tired of staring at a blank screen when it comes to creating your content, wondering what the hell to post, go and grab the neuro-friendly content kit. It's free and it was built by me for brains like ours. It takes the overwhelm and the confusion and the frustration out of content creation and helps you really showcase your brand and convert your audience into customers. Go ahead and grab it in the show notes. All right, let's jump in. Hello and welcome back. So today I'm going to be going over something that every single one of my clients struggles with, whether they are, in my audience and in my client base. It's very diverse. Like, I have very loud people, I have very quiet people, I have very outgoing people, I have very shy people, I have very soft people. It's so diverse. No two people are the same, which I love because everyone is neurospicy in their own weird and wonderful way. But the one thing that people always struggle with is they're afraid of being salesy. And normally why people are afraid of being salesy is because they are afraid of either disappointing people or they are afraid of coming across as pushy and being rejected. So it's either fear of disappointing, fear of being rejected, or fear of being disliked. It's kind of like the three main things that I see. And this is 10x with ADHD because we have a lot of the time rejection sensitivity, and we always think someone's mad at us, or we always think that someone doesn't like us, and we always think we've said the wrong thing. Like, that's kind of an inherent ADHD thing. So when you mix ADHD with sales, that can be an incredibly hard task. And it can feel, until you get used to it and you do it for a while and you understand how it really works. And as there's a lot of like self-work to actually be done in the sales part of running a business when you have ADHD, until you get really certain on how you personally interact with sales and how sales actually works, then you're going to have all these ADHD related things coming up. But even without ADHD, it's still a challenging thing. But realistically, a lot of the time, and this is the thing, is that my clients, I attract people who are always in their business to help other people. They are always, my clients are so amazing to work with because they are always the most high integrity people, the most ethical people, and they all have a mission to change or help the world in some way, which means they have a fucking conscience at the end of the day, which means that of course they're going to be, and if you're listening to this, likely you're the same, which means that naturally you are going to be not wanting to make people feel like you're trying to push them into something. You're not wanting to back people into a corner. You don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing. But it doesn't mean you can't sell. It doesn't mean you can't actively and obviously sell and promote what you're doing. Because sales isn't the bad guy. That's the thing. Sales is going to reflect who you are as a person, right? So if you are a slimy, pushy, manipulative person, then your sales is going to reflect that, and people are going to feel that. If you are a kind, caring, soulful person who is doing their work to help other people, and you genuinely give a fuck, your sales is going to come off completely different when you very obviously are selling and you directly say, hey, here's what I have to offer. Even if you sent someone a DM in your natural tone from the heart saying, hey, thanks for the follow, here's how I can help if you're interested, that is going to come off completely differently than when you are a manipulative and pushy person who is just after people's money and that's it. So just because you're selling, it doesn't mean that you're a money grabbing weirdo. It means that you care. Yes, you're trying to run a business. Yes, you have services to sell. Yes, we like money. We want to make money, but we also want to help people. That's not a bad thing. So your sales really reflects who you are as a person, and it reflects your motive. So as I say again, if your motive is to, provide a shit service and trick people into working with you to grab their money, your sales is going to reflect that, and people are going to feel it. People are going to really, really be able to suss it. If you are a caring person who is in their job, whether you're a coach or a service provider or both, to help other people, and you start working every day genuinely stoked to help people, and you are running a business, so your goal and aim is to make money from that, then that's also going to come across. And I promise you, people are going to feel entirely different without you even doing anything. So that's just what I want to kind of start off by saying. But, I see this a lot with people who are the best coaches and the best mentors and the best practitioners, the best service providers are all, like, often they are the most broke people in business because they are so caring and so cautious at the same time. But that caution, it goes beyond having a conscience, and it goes into the realm of self-sabotage, because you are keeping yourself stuck in that space of, oh, I can't sell my services because somehow you've convinced yourself it's unethical, just literally to sell or promote what you're doing, which is not, of course. So I want you to just pause for a sec and think about where your fear of being salesy comes from. Because normally when I go into this, and this is the thing, like all of my, in all of my programs, all of my mentorship and coaching, we go into strategy. Yeah, hell yeah, we do. But we go into inner work as well. And this is where the strategy blocks kind of get moved past, or the action implementation blocks get moved past. Because when we look at, okay, yeah, you have an issue with being salesy, you don't like it, it feels sleazy, it doesn't feel good. Where does that come from? There is always usually a reason. So I want you to just pause for a sec and think about where yours comes from. I'll tell you mine. We'll go into a bit of storytelling, story time. So mine probably comes from a few different places. My hyper awareness of the way sales works is because I have an issue with being sleazy and salesy and pushy and backing people into a corner. Of course, I don't have an issue with being like selling and being salesy in my way, because I know that my way of being quote unquote salesy is really just giving a fuck about my clients and my audience and seeing if people are a fit. Because just before I start my story, the thing about sales is you're not trying to sell to everyone. Your main priority, and again, for all of you people who are out there listening, which is probably all of you if you're listening to this, your conscience and your moral compass will be over the moon to hear that your main job is to see if people are a fit. If people aren't a good fit for your work, you don't sell to them. You don't offer your services, because if they're not a good fit, then offering them your services and saying, no, that's still right for you, that is wrong. So we don't want to be doing that. We fuck no, because I promise you that it's going to be a pain in the ass for you and a pain in the ass for them. It's not even just because it's a bad fit for them. Of course, that's the main thing, is that, you don't want to take someone's money and then not be able to get them results. That's, fuck that. But it's also going to be a nightmare for you. And it's your reputation on the line. Without your reputation, your business is going to struggle, which is why it feels so hard in the beginning, right? So anyway, your main job is to see if someone is a fit through relationship building, through nurturing. Once you know that they're a fit, then you can say, hey, I've got these services, or I offer this. Do you think that you might be interested? How can I help when they are a fit? And you know how things change? When you actually do that, it feels completely different, because you feel like you're actually doing the right thing, because you found out if someone is a fit. You're not just freaking popping up and sliding into some random ass person's DMs and saying, hi, just wanted to tell you about my services, even though I don't know what the fuck you're doing or who you are and whether you'd even like my stuff. It completely changes the dynamic. And that's how you actually start seeing decent sales. But anyway, my hyper awareness of the way sales works and my previous issue and block with sales probably comes from a couple of different things. So one, sales was my first ever job. I went straight out of school and straight into corporate pretty much. I mean, I did college for a bit, but dropped out. I dropped out of school like way earlier than I was meant to. Got my qualifications though, because I studied at home. Big up the ADHD girl. Anyway, and then I thought, I'll go to college. Went to college. Fuck that. I didn't want to do that. I needed to work. So I went into telesales as my first job when I was like 16, I think. And then I went straight into corporate when I was 17. I got headhunted and they were like, we hear you're a great salesperson. Like, do you want to come work for us? I was like, okay. Went into corporate and my first proper sales and marketing job. So my experience kind of starts there. But sales in that space and back in that time was, and it's not even that long ago in the grand scheme of things, but back in the day of when I did that, it was very different. There was no ethics. I struggled with that. I did sales my own way though. Do you know what I mean? I never backed anyone into a corner. I didn't. I know I started learning so much about sales, and I started learning so much about how people buy people, and your personality is actually what kind of moves the needle. And I got obsessed with that, and I was like, well, I'm not going to kind of do it someone else's way for the sake of it. And I remember I turned off the recording system so they couldn't listen to my calls to tell me that I needed to go back on the script because I was just adamant. Anyway, another story for another time. But I saw so much unethical shit in that space, in even when I was doing the telesales, the first one all the way from to when I was in corporate, I saw a lot of sleazy, unethical, just downright like crappy behavior. And that was kind of my first impression of sales. And then I came out of sales and marketing for a bit and then went back in and then came out. But anyway, that was my kind of like first thing of sales. And we've all seen Wolf of Wall Street, like we've all seen Jordan Belfort, freaking lying to these people about their investments. And that's kind of like the Wall Street salesperson is what we're all terrified of turning into ultimately in our business. There's some people who I'm sure love that shit, and like that's probably not coaches. And if they do, then I would really kind of urge them to get into another profession. But it's not the type of coach or service provider that me and you are normally. Anyway, so I was always terrified of turning into that. I also had a very bad coach when I first entered the online business space. She was really not it. She manipulated me big time into coming into her program, and she knew nothing of what she said she was going to teach me. She promised me like 10K a month. She was like, yeah, we can get you there in 3 months. Obviously, little old me back then had no idea about the online space, the reality of it and the reality of the people that had come into it, kind of, around that time, and, how it really was. And I was very manipulated into her program, and I was definitely sold to in a way that was pushy and manipulative and sleazy. So the main thing, and honestly, it was this more than my first job that kind of kept me stuck for a while in my online business. My first online business was the fear of being like her. I remember I just was terrified because I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to manipulate people. And then when I became officially a business coach, a marketing coach, I had that fear even more, because I was like, oh, well, now I'm actually doing not what she was doing, but I'm in the same space as that. And I was just like, oh my God, I need to make so sure that I don't do that. And it came up again. But it kept me stuck for a bit each time I felt that. And I had to really go into the fact of like, okay, well, you're only going to be like that if you're a dick. You're only going to actually be pushy and slimy and nasty in your sales if that's who you are as a person. And that's not who I am. And I know why I started this business, and I know why I started the business back then, and what it was back then. And that was out of a place of service and care. And fuck to make money. But was it the driver? No, the driver was care. and still it's care. So I want you to just remember that. If you have a moral compass and you started your business because you genuinely have a passion and a fire for the work you do, and you do it from a place of care and genuinely wanting to help people, you're never going to be slimy or pushy unless you try and make yourself that way. So that's kind of where my issue with sales started. So I want you just to reflect on what yours might be. You know, it might not even be something directly to do with your experience of sales. It might be something to do with, your upbringing or your cultural conditioning, or something along the lines of that. Like, a lot of the time, and especially for women and minority kind of groups of people, and neurodivergent people, it's very like, I'm pretty sure we have a bit of a history of, when we've grown up, we've been told off or shunned or isolated for being like too much or too loud, or we shouldn't be seen. If you're in kind of the elder millennial generation, or above, you kind of get the vibe of, when you're a kid, it's like children should be seen and not heard, or that's kind of how it was for a lot of us. But even when you go into like adolescence and teenhood, you feel that again. So maybe it's not even something to do with sales. Maybe it's to do with something around just being out there. What were you told as a child? Because this is why shadow work comes in, and this is why I do shadow work with all of my students and clients, because it's so fucking important. Because if you don't get to the root of why you have a business block, it's going to stay there and it's going to just fester. Maybe it's the ads you used to see, like, oh my god, those fucking 90s 2000s ads of just these really obvious like TV sales ads that you used to see. Maybe it was those. Maybe it's just like, oh my god, that's so cringy, and like, I don't ever want to appear like that. Maybe it's something as silly as that. And so all of those things, if you have experience with any of those things or something similar, you are probably going to find that when you go to sell or promote in your business, you freeze up, you shrink, you over explain, you over justify, you apologize for having a fucking offer, basically, even though you're doing this to help people. And as I said before, and I'm going to make this clear again, having ADHD and selling is very, very hard. It can be in the beginning, it is extremely difficult, because you don't really know what's normal and what's not for sales in business when you first start out. So I think a lot of us, when we first start out, especially, people probably starting out more now, you're going to think, because of all this shit online, that it's normal to just be able to post one Instagram story and make a sale. Well, it's not, and that's not how it works. I'll burst that bubble right now. It takes time. It actually takes personal outreach to people. It takes connection. It takes human connection. It takes relationship building. It takes work. It's not easy to just show up and sell. Like, I will tell you that right now. That's not how it works. And I want to do more of a training on this, which I'll put on this podcast. But anyway, when you're not aware of how it works like that, rejection sensitivity, which most ADHDers have, and a lot of autistic people as well. I'm not sure if it's a thing with dyslexia. I'm going to have to look into it. But most ADHDers and autistic people have rejection sensitivity, which makes selling feel dangerous, and you almost prepare yourself for disappointment if you've had rejection before. So there's a lot of work around that to be done as well. If someone doesn't buy, your brain in the beginning goes to, oh my fucking god, they hate me. Like, what have I done? I failed. That no one wants my work is redundant, and I'm just going to give up, and I'm not going to do it again. And the truth with sales is, it takes a lot of nurturing, and even the selling takes consistency. It takes consistent relationship building. But if you try it once and then go into, oh my god, they hate me because I posted a couple times and no one's bought, even though that's fucking normal, you're not going to want to do it again. So you avoid selling altogether, because you're trying to protect yourself from that emotional crash. So it can feel a little bit dicey with mixing it with the kind of rejection sensitivity. But realistically, avoiding sales is an inevitable part of business. Without sales, without marketing, there are no clients, which means you have no business. That's the bottom line. So avoiding that altogether will create its own kind of pain beyond rejection sensitivity. You won't be seen. It's going to create burnout. You're not going to have income. You're going to have resentment for your business. You're probably going to have resentment for your audience and clients. It's just not a good game to get in, to be honest. So the truth about selling is, as I said before, it is reflective of you and your business and your work and your morals. Selling is service. That's really the bottom line. Selling is leadership. It's connection. Selling is saying, I believe in this offer enough to tell you about it. And if you are, and this is where your ideal client avatar comes in, if you are this person, ideal client avatar bullet points, then this offer is for you. And I made this offer for you because I have been you. And now I am, 10 steps ahead of you, and I can show you how to do it. Come work with me if it's a fit. That's what selling is. You know what I mean? It's not, you have to fucking buy from me. You have to buy it even if it's not a fit. You have to give me your money. It's saying, hey, I made this for you. Like, it's like a gift. But please pay me for that gift because I've taken the time to make it, and I'm going to guide you through it so that you can get to the point where I am now. And I'm going to walk with you and show you how to do that and give you, whatever your offer is, my time, my mentorship, or this information, or whatever your kind of, you've packaged up in your offer. Selling is exchanging your gift, your offer, for money. Like, that is what it is. It's not anything evil or dark or sleazy or horrible. The way I like to see it is your offer helps people, but it doesn't help everyone. Your offer helps the person that you designed it for. And this is why it is so fucking important to niche down. Please niche down. Please stop avoiding the niche. If there is one thing that I would actually, if I could pick out one thing and talk about it as the most important thing, it would be niching down. And I avoided niching like the plague when I first started my business. I don't need a niche. I am the niche. All of that bullshit. And I've seen how destructive that is for so many people at this point. Niche down. You will thank yourself for it. Your offer helps the right people, ultimately. And not selling to those right people is withholding value. It's withholding your mission. And if people don't see that, how can you help them? How can you actually help the world? Ultimately, your ideal clients are looking for your solution. That's the bottom line. And they want to be helped. So in a sense, they want to be sold to, but no one likes to feel like they're being, quote unquote, sold to. No one wants to have information shoved down their throat. No one wants to be talked at. They need clarity. They need confidence. They need to trust you. They need to actually like you. And your people will. It's okay. There are plenty of people out there who don't like me because I'm gobby and I'm loud and I'm too much for them. And that's fine. And I hope they are I hope that they have found their person or their mentor or their coach that is on their wavelength, because you are not here to please everyone. You're really, really not. And that's not something that you should get butthurt about. You're just not. You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and people aren't going to be yours. And that is absolutely 10x when you're in a business space. Some people aren't going to like you, but some people are going to love you. And those people, it's the push and pull kind of attract and repel magnet kind of situation. You cannot attract unless you repel. That is the bottom line, and that's the kind of tough pill to swallow when you're at the beginning, because you want to be liked by everyone. You want everyone to be helped by your work, and that's not possible. So your aligned clients, your ideal clients, they want to be helped, so they need to be sold to. But, the thing is, right, and again, it's the online space, what people tell you to do isn't needed sometimes in sales. Sales in itself is a byproduct of marketing. And sales becomes very, very easy when you have a few core things built out, when you have your niche very, very important. And, when you have a specific niche, your messaging is directly speaking to people in that niche. You know who your ideal client avatar is, and you're always speaking to them. You have your brand built out, and you have trust with people. If you have those core things and maybe a couple more, which I'm doing this off the top of my head right now, so just Let's stick with those 5 main things for now, because I don't want to overwhelm the situation. But those are kind of the 5 main things. If you have those built out and you nurture people and you've actually built trust and you've built relationships, then sales, that's all you know, everything that I've just said is marketing. Sales is a byproduct of that. When you come to sell, as long as you give people the information that they need, you connect with people, and you are actually presenting what you're selling in a way that is so clear on how it can help them, a lot of things don't need to happen. So things like fake scarcity, fake urgency, manipulative language, only 2 slots left, like all of that shit when you've literally got an open program. No, let's not, because all of that stuff is not needed. When people feel pushed and backed into a corner so much that it just makes them feel ridiculously pressured, they will not buy. There is a happy medium to be had. I approach everything like that from a place of genuine, this is how many people I'm willing to take on for this program. This is when the doors are closing. This is how much time you have. Normally I keep my doors open for like a month. If someone wants to join in that time, they will. People shouldn't need to be backed into a corner to make the right decision. The natural, like, for example, if you're doing a launch, the natural doors opening, doors closing, which you have to close your doors at some point. That's okay. That's not fake urgency. That will prompt the right people to come in. Yes, of course, you can do early bird pricing, and you can have a wait list, or you can add bonuses in, but none of that is manipulative. That's just adding a bit of fun and a little bit of, if you're the first person to buy, then, I've got a free one-to-one call that I can give you. None of that is fake, and none of that is, manipulative. There are just certain things that we need to avoid in sales. For example, like fake scarcity, fake urgency, manipulation, all of that, the language that is very coercive and kind of tricks people in. We don't want that, and your selling should always reflect who you are. If you're a playful, funny, spicy person like me, my sales always kind of, like, my copy or the way I deliver information normally reflects that. If you are more of an emotional, soulful, soft kind of person, your sales is going to reflect that, like your copy and stuff, because that's what your people are, have connected with you for. If you are more like serious and grounded and educational, again, so there's no one way of selling. And there are so many different ways to sell without being sleazy. That's the thing. But you do actually, you have to do it. Otherwise you're just avoiding it, and your income will be staying at the same level, your business is going to be staying at the same level, and your self-belief and self-trust will also be pretty much in the toilet, and we don't want that. And the last kind of thing I see people doing is where I see people kind of going wrong with their approach to sales in general is, okay, well, the right people will find me. Yeah, the right people will see your message and buy from you because you've been so laser focused with talking to the right people, but you can't expect to just put yourself out there with wishy-washy language and, oh, it's okay, like, or no, no strategy and no structure or no direction and no plan, and hope that the right people will find you, because they won't. It doesn't work like that. And so you can't just put some kind of non-planned stuff out there and say, well, I'm just going to manifest that, the right people will find me, and, that's how it's going to go. Because then I can promise you right now, let's think about how many times you have said that to yourself. If you haven't, great, because it's not a good road to go down. How many times have you said that to yourself? And how many times have you actually had successful sales from that? Probably none. And again, I'm not saying that to be mean or rude. I'm just saying it because I've been there. Like, believe me, I've freaking been there, and it's not fun. And I avoided structures and plans and strategies for so long because, again, the way I was taught was not for me. I had to make my own, which is now why I teach strategy and structure in a very ADHD friendly way that is fun and, uplifting and creative and just fucking fun, rather than boring and makes you want to just rip your hair out. So, you can do it your way, but you can't avoid structure and having a plan altogether, because the thing is, people just won't take action if you are not talking about your offer, if you're just whispering about your offer, or if you're being wishy-washy and not directing your offer to anyone. That's just not how it works. So I want you to just reflect on this and just go into how your maybe your perception of sales is affecting your ability to sell right now. Again, I do this work a lot with people in my signature program, which is Rise, which is very exciting actually, because I'm having a little rebrand of Rise. I wasn't actually meant to announce this for another few weeks, but hey ho, I'm doing a little bit of a rebrand, but right now it's going to be it's Rise. You know, I do this a lot. I do this a lot with honestly every mid to long term mentorship I do, is we go into the inner work behind why you are blocked. Because if you're blocked with strategy or structure or action taking or doing in your business, it's never just that you are blocked. There is always a reason. And you know, shadow work and inner work has always been my thing, and this is why I feel so grateful to be doing the work that I'm doing today, because obviously my original business was, you know, I was a spiritual coach and I was a shadow work coach. That was my main thing. But I feel so like lucky to have had that business and that journey, because now I can incorporate it into the work that I do now, which I love doing way more than I ever did being just a shadow work coach on its own. But that work can now be incorporated, and I see my students and my clients have so much more success than when they just focus on the hard strategy alone. Obviously we need both. So yeah, that's my rambles anyway. But you know what I will say is sometimes you just have to practice using your voice, and it's going to feel maybe a little bit icky when you record that first video of you talking online and you're talking about your offer and you're talking about who it could help, and you speak about it with more confidence, but it might still feel a little bit itchy. And I promise you, if you keep practicing, it will get easier. I promise you it will get easier. And I just want to make it clear that, you know, there's a reason why we feel unnatural talking on camera, because it's not natural, and it takes time and it takes patience and it takes practice. But I promise you, it will get easier and it will get better. So that is it from me today. All of my links are down in the show notes, in the description, so please feel free to go and check it out. Go and grab my free neuro-friendly content kit. That's going to guide you through the process of making content that actually you know, hits all the marks with people and converts people into clients in ways that don't feel sleazy, don't feel shit, and don't feel restrictive. And it's basically a kind of like a done for you kit that allows you to put your ideas in and, you know, get really, really clear on who your ideal client is, to create content with everything that you need on drop downs and lists, and you can just check the boxes, and then it's a container for your creativity to just basically fly. So go for it. And it's free. Obviously at this point, Rise is closed for enrollment for another few months now, and then it will be reopening again. So keep an eye on that. But for now, if you did want to get some support, you can book a focus week in with me, also in the show notes, where it's basically a week, or you can upgrade to 2 weeks of one-on-one mentorship with me through Telegram, Monday to Friday, super in-depth, super high touch. And we can go into anything that you feel in your marketing needs tweaking. So maybe it's messaging, maybe it's clarity, maybe you know what you do, but putting it into words online and speaking about it is the biggest fucking task of your life, and you don't know how. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's more of your inner work around sales. Maybe it's actually action taking. Maybe it's accountability. Maybe it's setting up a whole new plan. So we can focus on what you need. And it's kind of like a bespoke kind of focus week. So go and check that out as well. And that is pretty much it from me today. So I will see you next time. Bye.